Hello. Oh, Carl's muted.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, now I hear you. I'm a little worried about my connection. It seems fine. Can you hear
Well,
me okay?
your audio is coming through 100%.
Okay, good.
You should join a choir. You're sounding perfect pitch.
My video isn't working. It said it was delayed,
Oh,
so I don't need to be seen. Uh-oh, now I lost my interface.
hi, Dick.
Hi, Dack. You're muted, by the way.
There I am. And you're in the dark.
I know, I don't, for some reason, my camera isn't loading.
Well, Jill and I were just talking about you. We
Uh-oh.
heard that you walk on water, but only in the wintertime.
There you go.
Carl.
I like that.
And it's a near religious experience to see you on the screen today.
I I prefer a much lower bar than that. It's easier to jump over one that's on the ground than one that's up high.
Come on, Lloyd. Come on, son.
Oh, hold on.
People really do love that.
Here we go. So it's too late to send money to bribe scoring, right?
Well, Venmo, I mean,
Yeah,
I can
there
just
you
say,
go.
oh, Jill got it wrong.
He could edit his scores. You don't know. I don't know if I should shut my camera off and turn it back on. I've been doing that all day. Oh, now I'm
Picture.
no. I'll just
You
do
have
my
two
picture.
cameras? Is it maybe is it getting confused between a laptop and a external?
It actually gave me a message saying that my virtual background was taking a while to load. Do I want to move ahead or something? And I pressed load anyway, impatiently thinking it would be fine. So, Carl, are you recording then? Is Steve here?
Yeah, it is recording. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was
There-
just curious because it shows 3 participants here. And
Well,
one
it
of them
threatened
is
me
not
when
Steve.
I tried to join the meeting. It threatened me saying that it was going to be recorded.
Okay. Mine did
So
too.
I think you're good.
It says it's recording, so he must have set it up
Set it up, lit the
and
fuse and
set it
ran
and
with it.
forget it. Okay.
Okay.
So, Dack, I'll read the title of the image. You give your remarks, and then on those that are accepted 8 and above, I read the photographer name as well. And I'll mess that up and not do it on the first one, so be prepared.
Okay.
And then if I'm not being right on it, go ahead and say next when you're done. If I'm not figuring out
Okay.
that you're done, feel free to say next. I just have noticed that I guess I can back up if I go ahead too fast.
Yeah. Let me. Let's get some.
So now I saw from your new
I'm sorry.
biography that you sent me.
Sorry. One thing on the assignment, for Fall Splendor, there is not a photographer's name with that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All Splendor. Oh, and that was a 9, so I better get that done. 172 is. Well, I don't know by heart, but I can look it up real quick here.
Yeah.
172. There we go, Betty. Betty Bryan. I put it on my list now.
Okay.
Yeah, There we go. Thanks for
Okay,
catching that.
I cut you off. What you were going to say?
It wasn't important.
Okay, all right.
Ooh, I'm having some ear. I was trying to turn my volume up. I don't know why. Try to switch.
Test 1 2 test.
Oh, now you're coming. Okay, that's because I.
Test. Okay.
Okay. Here's Steve. Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. Yeah, you're.
Okay, well, that's weird. I just can't seem to get my volume where it needs to be, but I can hear you okay.
Okay.
Okay, Steve Cole is here and muted. Oh, I suppose I should put in the chat. Brad is here. Okay. What time is it? Oh, we got 9 minutes yet. Okay.
When was the last time you guys met in person?
We did meet a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
We're having kind of a mixture of meetings. And so like in the warmer months, we're trying to meet in person when we can. And then for the salons, it actually works better to have it be on Zoom just for quality. But now we have a nice projector in the FIPS where we normally meet.
Okay.
But yeah, we had a peer review meeting I want to say a couple of weeks ago. And everybody just submit images and then we discuss kind of a fake salon since none of us
Okay.
are judges. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
You are going to MC at spring break again?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a secret, then you don't.
Oh,
have to
I don't
tell.
know if it's a secret or not. All right, maybe I better not say anything
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, you can
You
pass
would
on
know if
that.
it's a secret, wouldn't you?
Terry had asked me to do it, and I said, yeah, I'd do it. So
Okay,
that's
excellent. Well, good. I thought you did a great job whatever year you were there that I was there.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And I liked that they did that format. It was kind of nice to have everything in that room. I keep feeling like I'm on camera. I'm gesturing and stuff. I could try it again and see what happens. Nope, still black. Oh, well, we'll just see do that. I don't think I'm worthy to have this picture because I got that when I actually signed up for a Zoom account. For a while. I was temporarily doing it while somebody was out of town.
Okay.
And so now my Zoom account has expired. So Steve still has to host because we'll go over the 40-minute limit. But
yeah.
I did the photo while I had the membership thinking then I don't have to be live on video.
Yeah.
And now they're still letting me do it. So I thought that was only if you have a pro account or whatever. Oh, Carl has an interesting picture here. Hi, Joe.
Hello.
There we go.
You're on mute.
So is this the club's account, or is this Steve? Is this your personal account?
Actually, that Steve isn't the Steve that has.
Okay.
I don't know if it's his personal. Some people just use Zoom a lot, I guess, so they have personal accounts. I don't use it enough to justify it.
No. Well, that 40 minutes is a handy thing. Oh, I would talk to you longer, but yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah, sorry, gotta go. Yeah. It's enough for most things. So we have good deal. So is it blowing like a blizzard by you?
Yeah, I was in the office today, which is down in Bloomington, and I'm in the northern burbs. So it felt like I had like several flat tires. I mean, just swerving,
Yeah.
and it just
Well, I had mistakenly looked at the weather and thought, oh, Wednesday morning is a good final outside day for me. Well, it was blowing so bad. I
yeah,
went outside and I
yeah,
thought, I'm not spending much time out here.
no.
So I got the emergency items done. There's Steve.
Hello.
Hello.
There's a good crowd already.
Yeah, we got a good turnout.
How big is your club out with your membership these days?
Well, officially, the membership is 56.
Wow.
I mean, well, wait a minute. Let's see.
No, that's right. I think I'm looking
Great.
56, 57 around in there.
Yeah. So we can feel good about that. Yes.
Yeah, that's super good. I think we're at mid 30s or so. We've actually gotten a few new members in the last couple months, which is always nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Stagnant for a while.
Producer Mike
Oh,
is so well aware of that because he stems from the Vikings. And the defensive coordinator, he says, yeah, I can remember what Kirk can do because
we're hearing someone's newscast.
Oh yeah, Marianne looks like.
It's always Marianne. Oh, jeez. I think we're already recording. I'm gonna make
Yep,
sure.
you've got it recording. I noticed that.
Okay. Okay. We'll take a little time for more people to show up.
They kick off at U.S. Bank Stadium out here tonight. The Wild Foundation raising money for charity with several players helping with the cause. We'll more on this and the Vikings and the Gophers tonight at Jet.
Let's go. Great, thank you.
Yeah. It stays windy overnight tonight. It will die down tomorrow, but we chill only.
We all know it's cold, so wherever that is.
Joining us,
It's winter.
Jupiter and Venus. I feel really comfortable in it.
Okay, I just muted.
I was gonna say she got the
Marianne.
mute on now.
So with a paid membership of 50 plus, how many are you expecting tonight?
Oh, it's let's see, it varies, maybe 15, give or take.
Okay.
So people like the Zoom. Well, some do, some don't, but we, as everybody did, started it with COVID, and we have some Zoom only meetings, some hybrid meetings where we meet in person, but also share the program by Zoom. And then we have some in-person only meetings just to make sure that that's still an option and get to see people face to face.
Mhm.
As usual, Jill, I'll start by sharing some announcements, and then I'll turn it over to you to run the show.
Sounds good. I'm trying to fix my audio. It's not
It sounds good on our end.
If it sounds okay to you guys, that's good.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
getting weird crackling.
Hmm.
So I was going to go to Bluetooth, but it's not
PowerPoint?
connecting. Yes.
If someone's talking, I can't hear you. My computer says I'm sharing, I'm screen sharing.
Yeah.
Yep,
We-
I'm seeing the club WWPC board decisions. Ooh. Yep. I'm not going to go deaf from this. Okay. Are you talking? Sorry.
No one's talking right now.
Okay, good. Because I'm not going to wear those headphones. They're
We
just
currently have 11
blast in my
people.
ear.
I'm going to start with my announcements, and
Okay.
people can gather during that, and we'll get on with the salon. So, can someone tell me that they can hear me and that I am screen sharing,
Yes, and
Yes.
just to make sure?
Screen sharing 4 slides I saw on the thing.
Okay, Mary can hear. Um, okay, so a few announcements. We talked about some of this last time, that the assignment category is going to become the topic category as of 2025, and creative altered reality will become just altered reality for clarity. And then we're going to look into adding a black and white category and a travel category similar to N4C. And the board will meet at some point to discuss that. Let's see, I've talked about, move on. Talked about the different kinds of meetings already. As far as changes, this is not news, but just reemphasizing that I'll be stepping down by March of next year, looking for a replacement. I sent out an email with a overview of responsibilities that you can see there. And I will help the new president transition into the role as long as it's needed. But I'm going to be stepping down on 3/31. I didn't do that. I'll be stepping down on 3/31, even if no one steps in. So no one has responded to me about an interest in this role, but we'll see.
I tried that with my club. I'm 3
As
years
far
into
as N4C contest, Ken Wolter will be taking over for Terry Butler as of January, and Terry then will be taking over for Jill Krenz. Thank you, Jill, for all you've done to keep the salons going. as far as upcoming competitions for our salons, we're going to have an year-end award and party on January 22nd at the FIPS, but we'll also share it by Zoom. And then the next salon in 2025 is in February. That'll be Zoom only. The next program will be January 15th with, my screen just went blank. Paul Sundberg, he'll be talking about Minnesota's North Shore. I've been following him for years. Sorry about my computer. I've been following him for years through his website. He does wonderful photography. He's a former Cascade River State Park manager and has lived in that area for a long time. So I'm looking forward to that. Bear with me here. I guess I skipped the N4C slide. N4C, there's nothing in December as usual. January 10 will be the deadline for the January contest. So you can prepare for that. And lastly, spring break is April 5, 2025. There's plenty of information on the website about this, and you can see that there. So I'm going to stop sharing. Any questions or thoughts before I move on?
Good luck trying to find a new president.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you for your work
Dan.
as president, Steve.
I will, we have 17 people on. That's good to see. I will find Jill. Jill, you are now host.
Okay. I'm trying to, oh, here we go. Okay, can you see Dack? Thank you to our judge on your screen.
Dack, I love your beard and your mustache.
Oh,
Thank you.
I love that. I love that portrait. Okay, well, welcome to our December salon, and thank you, Dack Nehring, for stepping up and judging for
Jill,
us.
I can't hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
Dack has been the president of North Metro Photo Club. And in addition to running the club, he also organizes photo walks and hosts informal photo chats with photographers of all skill levels. He's been an avid photographer for many years. For fun and profit, he photographs families, senior portraits, youth sports, events, and corporate headshots. For fun and no profit, he experiments with all kinds of photography and digital art. Welcome, Dack. He emceed at the last spring break and will be hosting the next one in April. So thanks again, Dack, for judging our images. And so we will start with the assignment. Do you see assignment on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, our assignment was fall color. And we will start with.
Actually, before I just want to say just a couple
go ahead.
words before going in. I just want to first thanks for having me. Look at your images. It's I appreciate that you felt highly enough for me to look at them. Hopefully, I'll be able to provide a. I'm just looking to give you some food for thought on the images. That's the main thing I want you to get out of it. So whether you agree with the comments or not, the important thing is if you're out there, you're making the images. That's what's most important. And just a quick background. So all judges should have a list of criteria that they use to base their comments on. And that's something that I encourage you to do with your own images. Create a portfolio or collage of just something to collect snippets of art you like, photos, paintings, graphic design, anything. Get them all together and then look for trends with colors, shapes, perspectives, and then if you can identify some commonalities, bring those into your work. I think that helps make a more cohesive collection. And as you know, judging is subjective. So my criteria may not mesh with yours, and that's fine. When possible, I do put a strong emphasis on storytelling and perspective, along with the technical aspects of both photography and into post-processing, because post-processing is very important in the grand scheme of things. And then just know that just because an image score is high doesn't mean it's automatically going to be something that you're going to want to hang on your living room wall. And the opposite is also true. A good looking wall hanger may not score well. And those are not mutually exclusive. Those are fine. So use the critiques to get tidbits from. Don't think you have to make wholesale changes in your vision. That's enough of my blabbing. I just wanted to get that out of the way. So let's get to the critiques.
All right, well, that's helpful to know where you're coming from, Dack. So thanks for sharing that with us. We'll start with the assignments, or as it will be called in the future, topic. And we will start with the 6s. And here's number 10, St. Croix Street.
Yeah. All right. So I see this as a William Eggleston type image. He was famous for one of the first photographers who really came to be with color photography. He captured rural America, and that's kind of the vibe that I get out of this image. Because of the strong leading line created by the road, I think the topic of fall color is more secondary. I see the road and the gate, and I wonder what's beyond that. That's part of the story that I see in this image. A crop that would have been closer to the topic would have been like maybe an 8x10 view of just the houses and the trees. So if you decide to resubmit to another category at some point, I do suggest that you touch up the sky. It looks like there was maybe a replacement done, and the mask may have missed some of the leaves. So overall, it's a good rural American scene. Next.
All right. Next we have Autumn Field After a Storm.
Yeah, I like the layers this maker composed with. So we got a brown foreground, we got a stripe of green, colorful trees, and a decent sky. The star of the photo, pun intended, is the sun. So the maker captured some good rays. They do a good job of illuminating the tops of the green and yellow trees. In my opinion, though, there is simply too much space in the image. A 5x4 crop would bring the sun, the rays, and the yellow and green trees kind of closer together, and I think that would make a stronger image. So whenever possible, just work a scene. This is for this photo and pretty much every photo. So whenever possible, just work the scene. So if you felt compelled enough to go out and take the photo, go with your gut, take that initial shot, but look for other shots in that same world. So zoom in, zoom out, hold the camera up high, hold it down low, left, right. I mean, just really, really work the scene. All right, next.
Okay. Next we have Raindrops.
Yeah, I like where the maker was going with this image. We've got a kind of a macro close-up view of these drops. The texture is interesting. Like where the image could be improved is sharpness. I'm guessing this was maybe a phone shot, and it's it was just simply too close for the to get in good focus. With many phones, there are like manual overrides. That's something that you can look into if you're using your phone a lot for photography. I would encourage you to explore like maybe third-party apps, and definitely with close-ups and macro, use a tripod. So if this was sharper, it would have scored higher. But and there was also some really good detail there that the sharpness would have brought out. All right, next.
Okay, whoops. That's actually correct. We're moving on to the 7.
Yes. Yep.
Colors First Street.
Yeah. So we have great colors here, and they're complemented by a nice dark blue sky. I think the maker chose the right crop ratio. So taking that same ratio, but just bringing it in a little bit more would have eliminated the car and the garbage can in the bottom left. And while cropping, the image could also benefit from a little straightening. It's a little off on the horizon. Overall, good job on the technical stuff. It's a good exposure. It's not over sharpened. All right, next.
Okay, here's Devil's Punch Bowl.
Now, this is a good concept. I like this collection of leaves does a good job of being on topic. The perspective for me could have been more interesting if it was shot from the top down. If you had maybe held your camera out, if that was possible, directly over the leaves, I think you would have had an interesting abstract. As shot, the top part of the image just isn't really doing anything for me. Another suggestion, and again, and not just for this image, but like woodland shots in general, is to just carry a polarizer filter with you. A polarizer cuts down on the water glare, and it can make damp leaves look more saturated. So I appreciate the photographer's eye. This shows the importance of slowing down when hiking and walking around in the woods. And if you go too fast, you could have easily missed a scene like this. All right, next.
Yeah, okay. Here is Eva.
So nice subject and the prop and the background all help get us into the topic of fall colors. A couple of ideas to explore. One you might be able to do now, one would require a reshoot. So the model's hand is on the edge of the frame. So between that and the brown branch over the head, I think if you have space in the original image to get a little more room, crop out that branch, make it a little bit wider. I think that would make the image stronger. My other observation is that the image was shot with like a very shallow depth of field. So I'm guessing 2.0, maybe 1.8. So with your proximity to the model in shooting with that kind of aperture, the leaf is actually in focus, but the eye is not. So it looks like the location looks like there's plenty of space behind her. So an aperture of 4 or 5.6 would have been enough to get the leaf in the eye in focus, and you would still have an uncomplicated background. And I don't know if this was intentional or not, but the earth tones of the sweater work really well in the scene. All right, next.
Here is Ferry Bridge.
Well, you certainly captured fall here. There are leaves everywhere. Because of the all-encompassing fall feel, the subject is just kind of stuck in the middle. My eye does follow the path from the front of the image to the bridge, but then that's where it stops. The top of the image is quite busy. I think a horizontal crop would help bring the bridge, which is the obvious star of the photo, into more prominence, and you still have plenty of fall leaves around there. If you could have gotten down to the bridge too, there's probably some, that's again, working the scene. There's probably some other shots you could have created had you been able to make it to that bridge. And as shot though, the way you did frame the bridge with the two foreground trees, that works well. That was a nice touch. All right, next.
Here is fall landscape.
Mhm. All right, so you nailed the assignment of fall colors. The image is rich with them. My suggestion on this one is to work on the post-processing. I find it a bit distracting. The intersection between the trees and the sky is harsh, and it kind of creates a cutout look. So like backing off on the sharpness and the sharpening could have helped with that transition. That said, I can see this hanging up in someone's house to remind them of their cabin up north. All right, next.
Yeah. Okay, here's fall walking path.
Yeah, very much on topic. Good fall colors. The path gives our eyes something to follow, so that works well. For me, perspective is important, and this perspective is very just matter of fact. You walked up on the scene, composed, took the picture. Getting low, putting the camera on the ground would have made for maybe a more dramatic image. Moving to the left, moving to the right to see how the path intersects with the rest of the scene would have been a couple other things to play around with. Again, once you're on scene, once you've taken the one picture you wanted, you're not done there. You should look all around and think of different perspectives, because you might surprise yourself. Overall, this looks like an image you would see on a city's website promoting their parks. It's nicely done. All right, next.
Here is Lakewood Cemetery.
Yeah, so good composition and crop. I think the spacing and placement of the elements works well. What's distracting to my eye is the trees look pixelated, rendered in some way. I don't know if it's overly processed. I'm not exactly sure what, especially when they're compared to the building, which looks crisp. So without seeing what the image looks like straight out of the camera, I can't offer up any suggestions now. As it is now, one suggestion would be so as it stands now, if this was the only image you had, if this is what it was out of the camera, you can go full art mode. Add a texture filter, which would give the whole image a more uniform look. So I would just play around with some Photoshop filters. All right, next.
All right, here's lunch date.
Yeah, it's a nice tranquil scene. So you must have paid your models well to get them to pose like that. There's some good symmetry there. For me, the image is only slightly on topic. The topic is fall color, and for me, the fall color kind of takes a back seat to the horses. Also, above the brown horse, the horse and neck, there's like a blurry spot. I don't know if it's a JPEG or a post-processing artifact, but it's something to look at again. I would say crop this down, focus on the horses, and you'd have a strong image for a different topic. All right, next.
On to the 8s. We'll start with Honeymoon Trail from Terry Butler.
All right, so this is the intersection of photography and art. And, all photographers have their lines of what they will and won't do to an image. My line is pretty far over on the art side. So for me, this image works well. So long as it started life as a photograph, I'm cool with the post-processing that was done. So compositionally, we got the classic road taking us through a wooded area. I would like to have had that perspective down lower a bit. This does work. The post-processing overall complements the feel of the image. Next.
Here is Oberg Mountain View, and this is from Marianne Dierks.
Yeah. Yeah, here we are. This is peak color time. So with a vast scene like this, I'm sure the maker has a folder full of images from this outing. So picking the right one was probably a bit of a challenge, and I think they did a good job with this one. The inclusion of the stone rock on the bottom left mirrors the line on the bluff on the top of the image, and then that collectively, along with the far horizon, creates a nice path for the eye to follow all through the image. It's very well done. All right, next.
Next is Wavy Road from Mike Schrun.
Yeah, so once again, good fall colors. We have a very interesting leading line that takes us through the image. The perspective gets us close to the road, which makes for a more immersive feel. The colors are very natural. They're not overly saturated. They're sharp enough to make out details, but they're not overly done. And what's nice about this image is it works as an 8x10 crop as well. And if you do that, the crop then emphasizes the road a bit more. So I'm a fan of shooting wide. Just because of the post-processing options that you have later. I mean, certainly if you can nail a 10 out of 10 shot in camera every time, I mean, good on you. That's not me. So I tend to kind of shoot a little bit loose, and then I play around in Photoshop and Lightroom later. So anyway, next one.
Next is going on to the 9s. We start with Ivy on Stone, and this is from J. Olson Goody.
Yeah. So here's another good example of the maker keeping their eyes open to find a photo in what could be an overlooked area. So the fact that the leaves are in transition from green to red helps the story. And the leaves are the star of the photo, but the wall makes for a nice yin to the leaves yang. So we got strong and timeless with delicate and fleeting. So it's a really nice balance overall. All right, next.
Here we have Monrovian Church from Mike Schrun.
Yeah. All right. So this image has a good balance of a subject within the topic. The maker shot wide enough to show us place. The overcast sky and the break in the trees frames the bell tower really well. The maker chose to give us a 3/4 view of the church, and that helps create depth. The framing and the crop give the building enough room to be a part of the larger woodland scene. So it isn't just a photo of a church. This is a bigger story. The colors of the leaves and the buildings are also quite complementary, and that also adds to the story of time. So very, very well done. All right, next.
Okay, finally our 10, and that's One Red Leaf from J. Olson Goody.
Thank you. Did we miss one?
Did I miss one? Monrovian
Yeah,
Church?
Fall Splendor.
Fall
There we
Splendor.
go.
Oh, did I skip this? Weird.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
sorry.
Yep.
This is Fall Splendor, and it's from Betty Bryan.
All right. So we have a really nice composition here. The pond is nicely framed. We got a great reflection. And what's interesting is, despite the fact that the image is full of trees, there are two that really stand out as stars of the image across the pond. I'd like to have seen the same scene, but just from a couple feet to the right. This would have moved that kind of diagonal pine tree or evergreen a little bit more to the left. Overall, it's really good exposure and aperture. You chose the right settings to really tell a good story. All right. Okay, now we can move on.
No more skipping. we'll get one more look at this 10.
Yes.
This is One Red Leaf from Jay
Uh,
Olson Goody.
All right. So the topic was fall colors. And we've seen some rich saturated colors. We've seen some colors that are part of the story. And now we have this. This is a subtle and simple image, but it tells a story. I mean, we're close enough that you can just smell the decay. We've all been there. We can hear the leaves in this condition. We can hear them crunch while we walk. And you get that splash of color just to get our attention. And then when you look closely, there's image patterns that appear, and there's lines that take us through the image. It's a good eye for spotting this, and nice job on just being very, very easy on the post-processing. Well done.
Okay, on to the creative category. We will start with Duluth, whoops, the 6s.
Here we go.
Duluth North Pier Lighthouse.
All right. So the image is composed and cropped well. So as for the score, I don't think the image goes far enough to meet the category definition. So the category definition stated that the image is clearly not a straight photograph and does not look natural. So to me, it's again not creative enough. I think you have a good basis for an image, and I would suggest that you play around in Photoshop and some of the filters to really push it into the creative realm. All right, next.
Okay, moving on to the 7s. Here's Wildebeest.
Yeah. All right, so I think the post-processing done here complements the subject really well. And obviously with wildlife, you don't always get to pose your subject. So for this image, the part of the image that would benefit from being well lit isn't, and part of the animal that could benefit from maybe being shaded is bright and in our face. So the crop is good for the subject, and if the lighting and the shade were swapped, I think it would have scored higher. All right, next.
Okay, moving on to the 8s. Here is Copper Door Quebec Cathedral from Steve Plocker.
So I like the angle that was used in this image. It makes for a dynamic scene, and the texture that was a good choice for the building material. I mean, you worked on the post processing to really give it a hard feel, and that splash of color that gets us into the category. I think it's a nice composition. All right, next.
And the 10 is Flag Iris, and that's from Betty Bryan.
Yeah, so this is the epitome of the category. This is what you get when you have a photographer who is also well versed in multiple disciplines. So the maker took what was probably a well lit photo to begin with, and then created this art. I appreciate the subtle patterns in the background as well. It's not just a plain green background. There's some little texture there, and it's just overall a very well composed image, and just nicely post processed. So good job.
Okay, now we'll move on to the nature category, starting with the 7s, and we will start with Blue and Gold Tanager.
So we got gorgeous colors. It's perfectly sharp. It's a good composition. So you're like, all right, Dack, what can be improved? Why the score? Okay. So this is kind of good while this is a Zoom meeting, so I don't get met out in the parking lot afterwards. So from a technical aspect, and in camera, the post-processing, this is the work of a very skilled photographer. So this is where the subjective aspect of judging comes into play. So for all of its merits, it's a very good photo of a bird on a branch. And this doesn't minimize the photo or the skill of the maker, but for me, the story is important. Even the definition in this category states that the storytelling value of the photograph must be weighed more than the pictorial quality. So that's what I was taking into consideration when I looked through these images. So showing some environment or action would have changed the score. All right, Next.
Here's Cannonball Concretions.
Yeah. So you composed a good photo. I like that you shot with an aperture that helps show everything. You didn't just focus on the foreground there. So this helps tie the unusual rock formation to the surrounding area. The lighting confuses me a bit. It looks like there might be a storm rolling in, but then the shadow on the rock formation seems to indicate that it's a bright midday sun. So there's you need some balance there, and something that could help with that would be a conversion to black and white. So doing so would help make the image more uniform. All right, next.
Oops, sorry, I skipped one
Yep.
because of
Yes, you
spam.
did. Yep.
Okay, Crane Ballet.
Yeah. All right. So I like the action that was captured. It's an interesting story. Got a fast shutter speed that you use to freeze the drops of water caused by the birds stomping around. So that's a nice detail. The overlap of the wing and the beak interrupted the story for me. If they were slightly apart, that would have helped the story for me. You seem to have, you know, where these critters are at. So I say keep going back to the spot. You seem to know these birds. You've captured them like before. So keep at it. Stay on their level because that also helps immerse the viewers. All right, next.
Here is Eagle on Perch.
The photographer captured a good image of an eagle. It's decently lit. It's well placed in the frame. The lack of interaction, movement, and environment for me makes the image stiff. Like if the wings were spread out or if it was eating a fish, that to me would be a more interesting story. So while your model wasn't that into the shoot, you did create a technically solid image. All right, next.
Here is Female Waterbuck of Kenya.
Mhm. All right, so I consider this to be a good all-arounder. So we had a good pose, good exposure, good sharpness, and a good crop. In my opinion, it could use more story. While the crop is good for focusing on the subject, it's the lack of environment that costs this point. It's an uncommon animal, so seeing more of its world, I think, would have been more interesting. All right, next.
Here
Yep.
is Flying Free.
All right, we're cleared for takeoff. So we got a bird in flight image that benefits from nice light, fast shutter speed that froze the action. The details in the feathers are easy to see. I would like to have seen a little more space around the image, especially on the left. I mean, this is a big bird, and I think showing more of its environment would have made the image more interesting. Right. Next.
Here is I'm Bigger.
So you got a good moment. You framed and cropped it well to help with the story. The whole image, however, is slightly soft, maybe out of focus. And there are, besides the built-in ones within Lightroom and Photoshop, there are other online tools that that you can use to extract some sharpness out of softer image. So there's also Topaz and Luminar Neo. Those also can help make softer images sharper. So those are some things to consider because overall it's it's a neat scene. I think because it has good lighting, it's a good location. It just needs to be sharper. All right, next.
Okay. North Shore Milky Way.
All right, so you framed up a great scene. I think it has good balance and atmosphere, and it does tell a story. It's the lack of focus where this lost points. The tree on the right side is probably the most in focus part, is the sharpest part of the photo. The rest of it is pretty soft. So when you're shooting astro, shooting night, you want to use the if you have live view on your camera, um, use the focus on the brightest thing in the sky that you can see. There's a little magnifier on the LCD on the back of your camera. Get that as big as you can. Manually focus until that bright spot is as small as possible. That's going to be as sharp as it goes. And then once that's locked in, you don't have to touch that focus ring again, and then you can just worry about composing images. A tip I did hear from there's a photographer and educator named Scott Kelby is like, if you want to make use of an image that isn't quite tack sharp, print it out on canvas. That way the texture could actually enhance the image. I think this would look great as a canvas wall hanger in someone's cabin. It's just a thought on that one. All right, next.
Oh dear.
So the subject is well framed and the crop works well for the image. You did catch the deer in its environment, which unfortunately is rather a busy woodland area. So you can't do anything about that now. But from a post-processing standpoint, what you could do is boost the dehaze, raise the highlights, lower the blacks. This combination of stuff would make the deer pop a little bit more in the image, and it'll make the background less distracting. I encourage all photographers to play around with the various settings in the programs that you use. Again, if you're using Lightroom, it's really easy because there's just sliders that you just scrub back and forth. And for the most part, like 99% of the suggestions that I'm making, I did myself with these images to just to see if there was ways I could alter an image to maybe make it maybe better, or at least make it different. So that's so that combination of dehaze, lights and blacks. I did the image, and I thought it made the deer more prominent. So something to consider. All right, next.
Next we have Seagull.
Yeah. All right, so I appreciate that you got down to the subject's level. So that automatically makes the subject more prominent and interesting. The subject's placement in the frame is also good because it provides some looking room for the bird. There are a little blown highlights on the wings, not a big deal. Those are easily corrected by just lowering highlights. What we often hear as photographers is that we need to get close and then get closer to your subject. In my opinion, again, story is equally, if not more important. So having a subject just standing there, for me, isn't that exciting. So one idea on this one would be to, again, convert this to black and white. You don't see this type of nature shot often displayed in black and white, so that could provide a fresh perspective on the image. All right, next.
Together Forever.
So I like that the maker placed the subject on the left side of the frame, and then gave them plenty of space to move into. And you got them moving into the sun, which also then enhances the image. The perspective of the photo, the angle that the photo was taken at, has kind of created an optical illusion for me. So for me, the subjects look like they're kind of going downhill. When I played around with the image to try to make the subjects more level, then the water didn't quite look right. So I think overall, when you're on a scene where you're shooting, ducks, geese, any waterfowl on the water, getting close to the water and shooting at their level would have alleviated the perspective shift here. So from a technical standpoint, the maker got all the settings right. I mean, it has good exposure, good sharpness. We shot at an aperture that got the entire subjects in focus. next.
Here's UP Falls.
All right, so I like the crop of this. It gives us layers. We got a foreground, we got mid, we got background. It's shot at a shutter speed that freezes the water enough to see some detail, yet it's slow enough to see some show some movement. The lighting, in my opinion, is uneven, so there's no smooth path for my eye to follow. I think this image could benefit for some dodging and burning to help even things out and to create a path for the viewer to look through. Overall, it's a decent image and one that I could easily see on a travel brochure of entitled "Waterfalls of the UP." All right, next.
Here we go on to the eights now. We'll start with Confrontation. This is from Marge Springett.
Oh, so good story here. You can see the full bodies of both birds. There's enough environment to give us a sense of place. The action that was captured is the story. You're thinking, was there more separation between the background and the flying bird that we saw before? Yes, but in my opinion, this one has more story and is therefore more interesting to look at. All right, next.
Here is Violet Saberwing at Passion Flower.
All right, so very.
Oh wait, this is from Marianne Dirks.
Ooh,
sorry.
Yep, sorry. So very crisp and clean capture. We got great colors, details, and good action. What was captured based on the catch lights, and then also the underlighting. Several strobes were used for the capture. So from a technical standpoint, I mean, this is really well done. The maker has clearly spent quite a bit of time to perfect shots like this. It's clearly a lesson in persistence. But for me, for as good as it is from a technical standpoint, I'm going to suggest to the maker to experiment with maybe being less perfect, have a little more, show some more elements of nature in the background, so it's less clinical. I think there would be more story if there was a little more stuff in the background. And obviously, if this was a flash trap or something, that limits what you can do. But I would still consider that just to give it a little more flavor. All right, next.
Okay. Here is nines. We're going on to the nines. We'll start with Hoverfly from Carl Wagoner.
All right. So what I like about this image is that we have an uncommon subject in its environment. So the environment is interesting. The subject is crazy sharp. The entire subject is in focus. I don't think you can focus stack that fast. So I'm not sure I was able to do that. So it's impressive. Overall, the image is helped by the complementary colors of the subject, the flower, and the background. It's a really well done shot. All right, next.
Next, moving on to the tens. Dragonfly Cannibalization from Carl Wagoner.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to have trouble with that one.
Yeah, Carl is he's got an eye for this. So this is a compelling story. It's like you don't hear about Dragonfly on Dragonfly crime very often. So that's what makes this interesting. The maker captured what I think is an uncommon event, and bug people may tell me otherwise. Maybe they say this is something that happens all the time, but for me, it was a very interesting story. He filled the frame. The subject is sharp. We have action, and the whole frame is actually clean. And for my own curiosity, for this shot, and knowing that it's the same maker for both of them. maybe in the chat later or after the thing, I'd like to know if the maker just carries a tripod around and sets up in one spot and waits for the bugs to show up, or if he's just running around with a tripod and quickly getting set up. Anyway, that's something for later, but I'm curious how, because I have not been successful with shooting bugs, so I'm looking for some tips on that. So overall, well done.
All right.
Next one.
Here is Winter Fox from Betty Bryan.
Yeah. All right. So this is another animal looking at a camera shot. And it has a number of factors that come together to create a story. So starting with the framing, so the maker provided us with enough environment to give us context. The photo has depth. The background is unobstructive. It's snowing. I like that the maker's not afraid to get out there while in the weather. The subject is sharp. The colors are superb. Even the snow on the ground, which can easily go gray or blue when you're shooting or in post processing, is got a good white color. And the subject's pose is engaging. So I mean, everything about the photo is done extremely well. I just hope I don't find out that this is just a natural history diorama. So if you actually recreated it in real life, man, that's great.
Okay.
All right, next.
Next is Winter is Coming, and this is from Joseph Schuffman.
Yeah. So you don't need an exotic animal from an exotic land to tell a good story. Sometimes they can just appear in your backyard. And I think this is a great example of being alert to a common critter caught in an interesting pose. And this to me is just a funny story. And now the story is certainly helped by the fact that the maker filled the frame, got it sharp. It's in focus. It's well framed. The space above the tail is just waiting for an inspirational message about saving for your future. Very well done. All right.
Okay. All right. Here we go with the phone shots. Start with the sixes. Here is Autumn Vibrance.
All right. So good color and framing. I like the inclusion of the sky to balance the yellows and oranges of the tree. Besides thinking, hey, cool tree, there's not much story here. So a couple ideas to make the story. Well, maybe get under the tree, shoot directly up. Maybe there would have been an interesting abstract there. Have someone in a red hoodie. Always keep a red jacket or red hoodie in your car. Throw it on, even if it's a stranger walking by. And a scene like this, someone in a red hoodie leaning against a tree, that would have made it more interesting. There's just a couple ideas that I thought of while looking at it. Again, from it's a phone, so I'm not sure how much he had control over the exposure, but good exposure, good colors. I just needs a little more something happening to make it more interesting. All right, next.
Next is Catching Fun.
All right, so the maker found a good scene. Something interesting is happening here. There is, however, a lack of connection between the subjects and the camera. So when you're shooting street, it can involve a lot of patience in order to get the right elements to come together in the right way. And that to me is what's lacking here. So we have 3/4 of the subjects are engaged with the person blowing the bubble or creating the bubbles. So had the maker moved over and shot from behind the bubble maker, I think they would have captured faces, which would have made the image overall more compelling. So again, work the scene, walk all around the subject to capture it from different vantage points, because you're never sure which one is going to be the one. All right, next.
Okay, come here. Here's Rainy Day Wiseman.
So the Weissman obviously is a very interesting building. There are many ways to shoot this structure. It's like the maker chose the kind of a pretty straightforward view. There's a neighboring pedestrian bridge that was probably shot from. So it's an accurate representation of the building. Since the sky's not really helping you out and the lighting is rather flat, I would recommend a conversion to black and white, and then play around with the contrast and highlights and dehaze sliders. And I think you can push this to a kind of a fine art look. Right. Next.
Here's Teddy's cabin in North Dakota Badlands.
Yeah. So this I would consider a good travel reminder photo. I mean, it's sharp, it's got good detail, but to my eye, there's no intentionality to make this into, you know, a focused photograph. It is again a reminder shot. So things to consider, you know, get low. You know, make the building bigger, shoot wide, focus on just the windows and the wood casing around. There's a lot of detail in the building. There's probably some other shots within this shot that that could have worked. All right, next.
Okay, here's Whitefish Point.
Mm-hmm. Right, so I like the choice of making this a pano. So we got three distinct elements here. We got the hillside, we got the beach, and the water, and that all tells a good story. The issue with this image is it's just simply not in focus. If it were in focus, it would have scored higher. But overall, the composition is well done. All right, next.
Moving on to the sevens, here's Layer Cake.
All right, so the maker shot and framed this image using an interesting composition and an angle there. It allows for some room for the subject to breathe, and also provides context showing where these images are growing, or where these things are growing. And it's done with good sharpness and color. So I mean, overall, it's a yeah, it's a decent shot. Next.
Moving straight to the nines.
Yeah.
Here is, oh,
Oh.
that's not good. Dragon Boat. I knew it was there, from Jackie Wilson.
Yeah. So perspective. Love this perspective. When used right, it can basically take a snapshot and turn it into a photograph. And that's what we see here. This is definitely a photograph. So the maker shot up. It produced an interesting dynamic image. The conversion to black and white was a wise choice, since there probably wasn't any color of significance in this image. This image just goes to show that the best composition might be right above your head. All right, that is all for that one.
Okay, now we can go to pictorial with a clean conscience. Okay, we'll start with the sevens. Here's an electric night.
Yeah. The staging and execution of this image is quite good. This is not a let's wing it scene. I mean, the maker and the model had a plan. Not sure if the aurora was on their checklist, or they just lucked out on that. Either way, the combination of the northern lights, that electrical structure, and the model make for a really interesting story. Contributing to that story is the outfit and lens choice. But for me, there are two factors working against the image. One, there seems to be there's a color cast, or that the colors just aren't quite working together, in my opinion. And then two is a post-processing. I don't call it an issue, but there's post-processing. The foreground isn't clean. So if it just looks odd around the model's foot, and under the waving part of the dress, there's some unevenness in how that was post-processed. The concept you created is very interesting, and for that, I like where you were going with it. All right, next.
Here's Big Snapping Turtle.
Yeah, all right. This image is full of detail and texture. So the maker got down to the subject's level and more than filled the frame. I think this image could benefit for some dodging and burning, mostly dodging, to help the viewer navigate around the image. think if the ground area and the skin around the head were darkened, I think the eyes would be more prominent in the image, and that would get the viewer to the face quicker, and that would make for a stronger image. All right, next.
Okay. Here's blue water lilies.
Yeah, the flower seems to glow with light. If this was something that you did, it's an interesting lighting idea. There are no hot spots. I turned on the little highlight notification thing in Lightroom, nothing. So you got maximum detail out of that. It's very bright. It's not blown out, so good job on that. While the lighting is interesting and there are no blown highlights, in my opinion, they're just too bright. And they're bright to the point of a distraction based on the rest of the environment. So I think lowering the highlights, shadows, and whites would even out the image. And I encourage you to keep lighting the subjects in a similar manner, because this is a unique way to view flowers and nature scenes like this.
Mhm.
Next.
Getting the look.
So, great action. We got flying dirt, and the frozen action of the bull are good for the story. The story of the writer is where I think this image is lacking, because we can't see the writer's face. I think there's a disconnect. The image does make use of a good frame and crop. We just need a little more engagement with the writer. All right, next.
Here is ghost trees.
Yeah. All right, so the image has depth and a mysterious quality to it. Something I would like to have in the scene is a distinct subject. So it's interesting to look around the image, and when I do, it's done in more of a kind of a random manner. There's not a path to follow or any one thing to really focus on. But this image does demonstrate that you don't need like super detail to make a strong image. All right, next.
Here's Hudson Canine.
All right, so I like this as a photojournalistic image. There is a story here, but I would like to have seen more of the story. Actually, show me what is the dog looking at? Or if you really like the story you captured, I would suggest a slight reframing, a little more space on the right to get all of the sheriff's head, or in the top to get the sheriff's head in frame. I do like that you shot at this at a low level. I think that helps the viewer get engaged in the image. Next. Next
is Ice Fortress.
All right, so this is an interesting subject, shot under good looking sky. So the technical aspects and elements are handled well. So good exposure, good sharpness. Composition wise, I'm not sure how I should be navigating through the image. Again, my kind of like the ghost trees, my eyes just kind of wander around, and in my opinion, they should be guided in some way. So some dodging and burning could help create a path for the eye to follow. That's one suggestion. All right, next.
Okay, next we have Interstate Park.
Yeah, we are very fortunate to have so many scenic parks on the border of the states here, and this maker got to a scenic area with nice light to make this image. The focus of the subject, in my opinion, is too immediate. Beyond the trees, there's a great river scene there. So maybe exposure bracketing could have brought out more detail in the river area, and which would have in turn made for a bigger story. All right, next.
Okay, here is North Shore Sunrise.
All right, so landscape photographers watch weather forecast hoping to hear about a day like this one. So The maker shot this from an immersive perspective. They're low, they're getting their feet wet to help bring us this scene. So we look at the sun first, since it's the brightest point. We follow the reflection down to the rocks, and the shore makes a natural line to take us all the way through the image. Now, one observation on this image, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but it looks like there may have been some generative AI work done, and just for the record, for me, I have zero issue with that, with using technology to make an image better. But why I bring this up is on the right side, there's about a 300 pixel wide strip on the right side and a 150 pixel high or a high strip on the top that looks slightly different than the rest of the image. Now, one thing to know about generative fills is by default, they have a resolution of 1024 by 1024. So if you're working on an image with a higher resolution, that rendered area is going to not look as crisp. It could end up looking a little bit blurry. There are ways around this, but by default, that's something to watch out for. Anyway, back to the image. The maker captured a very good scene that has mood and story to it. Next.
Okay. Next we have North Shore Splash.
Yeah, capturing moving water is an interesting exercise. So with options ranging from freezing motions so you can see the droplets to longer exposures, which can eradicate detail from the water. So this image, in my opinion, is somewhere in the middle, though closer to capturing the detail. The shutter speed for me isn't fast enough to get crisp drops, so the resulting blur for me decreases the image's interest. So for my suggestion for a shot like this, focus on one part of the splash zone, use a high shutter speed to really capture the excitement of the water crashing on the rocks. Next.
Next we have Pelican on post.
Yes, we have a pelican on a post. And I'll assume that the post is maybe part of a pier. So that plays into it. We have a nice swath of blue in the background, probably water. So combined, these elements create a good environmental portrait. The transition from the head to the background seems there's like a slight gray halo. So I'd get that corrected, and the connection between the subject and the background would be more natural looking. But I like the placement of the subject, and I like that the red in the eye has a kind of a complementary color on in the background. Next.
Yeah. Here is Pricker Crown.
Yeah, so well composed and cropped subject. I definitely have sympathy for those horses because those little spiky things are just a pain to deal with. I'd consider maybe reprocessing the image. To my eye, it's the sharpness is uneven. So if you look at the tips of the ears, they're sharp. Halfway down, they're soft. So again, I'm not sure if that was done in post or not. Something to look back on. I appreciate that you filled the frame because that makes for a strong portrait. Right. Next.
Here's Sable Falls.
This image has a nice flow to it, pun intended. I really have to have a rim shot sound effect for these. Anyway, the crop lets the eye easily move through the image. Although in my opinion, the color of the water needs to be neutralized in order to better fit into the surroundings. I do this by going into the color mixer. You choose blue and then just lower the saturation. Now the colors of the leaves and the rocks, that looks good. Just the color of the water looks a little disconnected from the rest of the scene. All right, next.
Okay, here's that tree.
There it is, that tree. Woodland photography is tough. So identifying a subject in a busy environment, yeah, takes skill. The maker did find a subject. So this birch or aspen does stand out. So good eye identifying the subject in the scene. But for me, there's not enough separation between the subject and the environment to fully work. So pulling back on the black slider, pushing the dehazer slider up would help create some separation. And that would help the image. But I think you're on the right track. I think just keep shooting those woodland scenes. All right, next.
Okay. Here we go with the 8th, starting with Howler Monkey Sounding Off from Marianne Jerks.
Yeah. So the monkey's expression is what makes the photo. And yeah, again, certainly it's helpful that the maker nailed all the technical stuff. It's sharp. There's a good aperture choice. It's a clean background. All of that is right on. I wouldn't mind a little more space on the right. But back to the expression. This proves that story and interest can be found in just one little aspect of a photo. I don't know if you had to wait for this to happen. If you did, thanks for being patient. If howler monkeys howl all the time, well, good job capturing it. Okay, next.
Okay, here is Windmill. Well, this is not Windmills.
Oh, I can pivot. I can do it that one.
Okay, this is Rural Quartet, and
Yep.
it's from J. Olson Goody.
All right, so there's a lot of things going right in this image, and I really enjoy the mood that was captured, the color of the grasses, the bare trees, the empty containers tell us that winter is coming. For me, a slightly wider crop would have furthered the story of abandonment, maybe. If there is room to expand the image, keep that pano crop and that slight vignette that you have going, because that works well for the image. But overall, again, nice mood, good story.
Okay, is it going to be Windmills now?
It
Yes,
is.
Windmills, and this is from Diane Cisco.
Yeah. So this is why photographers chase light. I mean, the lighting is the star of the image here. Now it's helped with a strong supporting cast. You got the windmills and the road that leads you to the castle. This same shot at high noon under a cloudless sky, it would not have scored well. So the maker chose a nice small aperture to get all of the elements in sharp focus. That helps with the story. Sometimes people add to an image, making a scene exciting and vibrant. In this scene, the lack of people, I think, helps the story of isolation. I think it's a very nice image. Well done. All right.
On to the 9s, and we have Rodeo Wrangler from Betty Bryan.
Yeah. So this action shot checks all the boxes needed for a good capture. So we got a decisive moment captured. The technical settings are spot on, and it's a good story. So the maker has several cropping and framing options to choose from here. They went wide, which gave us place and environment, and I agree that it works well. You could use that same aspect ratio and even a square to make the action more prominent in the frame, and that would have worked too. But by shooting wide, we have the inclusion of the bystanders, which provides the photo kind of a journalistic quality as well. It's very, very well done. Okay. Next.
Next, the 10s.
Yep.
This is Jumping on the Wheel of Death from Fred Sabatka.
Yeah. So this should be the promotional poster for this troupe. I mean, it's an action shot with a story, and it's done in low light. I mean, this is nice layers here. So the daredevil is captured at the decisive moment. It's nicely framed. The subject is nicely framed. The whole image is nicely framed. The people on the bottom are very intriguing. The lighting is interesting, and the action that was captured and the image are all showstoppers. Just very well done.
Yeah. And that is it for our images. Dack, thank you so much for your very entertaining reviews.
Thank you.
Did you want us
Ye-
ask questions or do we have
Yeah.
a little time to
Bro,
do
yeah,
that?
I got all the time in the world.
Okay. If anybody wants to ask questions, or you had a question on an image now, I can't recall which one it
Yeah,
was.
and whoever your bug person, like Carl, I want to know if he is carrying a tripod around, or what are some
Oh,
tips?
yeah.
What are some tips for getting close some bug shots?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yep.
got you.
Okay, well, I don't carry a tripod. Haven't for a couple years because I'm shooting with a 4/3 camera.
Okay.
My Panasonic G9 II now has 8.5 stops of IVS.
Woo.
And the lens that I use is 100 to 400, which should double that. But the thing about micro 4/3 is you get a lot more depth of field out of it.
Oh.
So when the dragonfly shot, for instance, I was hanging around the edge of a farmer's pond and actually saw the dragon grab the other dragon out of the air. And I
Wow.
followed them down to that spot and was lucky that I was able to position myself so the sun was on my back and was able to get the shot that way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the
Wow.
hoverfly shot, same kind of thing, because you have more depth of field with smaller sensors. I was lucky enough to grab that image, and just by dumb luck was able to get the entire hoverfly in focus and everything else out of focus.
Okay. Well, that's both good and bad news for me. The good news is, well, the bad news is I don't have a micro four thirds, so I'm not going to be easily, can't replicate that. So the good news is at least now I know the answer.
You shoot with a full frame?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't want to carry around the 4-foot lens for
Yep.
the kind of
Right.
photography that I'm shooting, and I can walk around all day with my micro 4/3 camera with that 800 millimeter reach, and I'm quite happy with that.
So you can get some good moon shots with that too, then, right?
You can. There's my pixel count is 24 megapixels, so I mean there's a limit on what I can do. You get a little less dynamic range
Yeah.
in your shots, so you got to kind of deal with that. And the other thing that you're challenged by is I can't run high ISOs when I shoot. Typically, I'm shooting at 1600 ISO or even less for
Okay.
most of my shots.
All right. Not bad these days. Thanks for the info, Carl.
Yeah, I didn't have to sell my retirement package to buy the camera either, so there is that.
Anybody else have any questions or?
Yeah.
Dack, very helpful comments on all the images.
Oh,
Nicely done.
oh, thank you. Is Fred on the call here?
I saw him.
Yep, he is.
Okay.
All right. So what's the story on jumping of the wheel? I mean, again, to get a clean, sharp, low light shot, action shot, what was your magic? What'd you do?
He's muted.
He must have stepped away, maybe.
Mhm. Okay.
We can ask him.
Okay. Now, yeah, that's what I like. This is like the other part of salons is just figuring out is just learning from each other on how to get different shots.
Here's Fred. I see you, Fred. We had a question about the
Hello?
jumping on the wheel of death, the story
Yeah.
behind that photo, which was
Yeah, how did you, what were, I mean, yeah, okay, basically, so it's to get a low light action shot in focus and sharp is a challenge. So what did you do to make that happen?
I'm not entirely sure. It was at there was like a Cirque du Soleil, only it was for Halloween.
Okay.
And so I called them and asked them if they need any photos. They said, sure. So I got a fairly close shot. And, other than that, I don't know that I really did anything any differently than I normally would.
Okay.
In low light, it was high ISO and
Yeah. No, it was clean. I mean, I think it worked. And it worked really well.
oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
I don't know anything about howler monkeys. So do howler monkeys howl all the time? Was that an easy shot to get? Is
I'm looking to see
Marianne?
if she's here. Marianne. I think she might have signed off.
Okay.
Yep, she did.
Yeah,
We-
something that I might think is difficult is like, oh no, they do that all the time. So that's not a unique thing at all.
Well, she's not going to tell the judge that.
It's over now.
It's over now.
Okay.
All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, we'll throw a big thank you at you, Dack, and
All right.
wish you well for spring break. Come to
Thank
see
you
you
so
then.
much. I appreciate it.
No blizzard that day.
Yeah, hope not.
All right.
All righty.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Good night.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Oh, I guess I have to shut it off, huh? How do I do that? Stop share. And